Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast!
Here we are again, ready for another chapter. Chapters 4 through 6. I thought these were good chapters. I always say that, but it's true.
Yeah, these ones were pretty good. So we finally figure out what it is that Yumi does and why it's so important.
Who? What?
Yumi,
Oh, I thought you said the enemy or something.
the enemy. We don't know who the enemy is yet.
Yes. I have a feeling that what Yumi does is tied into also what Painter does. Somehow that I don't see yet. I don't know how yet, but I have a feeling.
I wouldn't be surprised. Some other interesting things. So apparently, I still don't know what's causing like the ground of her world to be so incredibly hot. Like, is it the sun? Is it just how the ground is? But it makes things super hard to grow. And so it seems like villages and towns and probably even cities grow up around steam wells, which is pretty cool. So they're like, I always picture like Yellowstone,
Yeah, that's what I
Old
thought
Faithful, just like, and that's like their hot. That's like their only source of water, is it explodes and they put like bowls and stuff around it to collect it when the water explodes and comes down. So kind of cool, interesting idea.
Sounds like a pain to me, but I'm used to modern day plumbing.
Yeah. And it seems so. It's interesting to seeing the similarities and also like vast differences between Yumi's world and Painter's world, because in Painter's world everything is darkness, and because of that darkness, people don't really travel much. They don't really go places, like they kind of just stay where they are. And in Yumi's world, it's like so hot and so dangerous to travel because there's the desolate area where you pretty much just die if you travel there.
Yeah.
And so people don't really travel much. And so they both have like really harsh, but in different ways, environments. Like without the Heian, nightmares will probably eat you in Painter's world. And without being around like a steam well or something, you could die in Yumi's world. So
I think I'd rather face Yumi's world than something to come out of the shadows shaped as something I'm scared of and eat my face.
right. So yeah, Yumi, what she does as I forget what she's called. Dang it.
The Yoki Hijo.
Yoki Hijo.
Yoki Hijo. I don't know.
Yeah. So she is someone who can talk to spirits, or that spirits listen to. And these spirits, like Hoid lets us know, are the investiture of this world. And they operate very similar to Spren in that the emotions and thoughts of the people kind of like shape them. And it's pretty cool how she communicates to them through art.
Through art. Which would... I'm
different
not...
kind of art.
I try to be artsy, but I'm not. I think I would fail at this job.
Yeah, it's a different kind of art. It's
Yeah.
not like she's not painting a picture like Painter or like doing anything like that. What she does is she's really good at balancing rocks.
Yeah, which is a really specific skill. And I wonder, is that why the villagers spend like an entire year gathering rocks? It's just because Yumi is good at stacking them.
It seems like that's what all of them do.
That's what I couldn't figure
All
out.
of the Yoki Haiju. I could be wrong about that, but it seems...
Maybe, I wonder if...
She also mentioned, so she sets up all these rocks. It takes her hours and hours to do it. And she says that the villagers will keep it there, but then they'll take them down eventually for the next Yoki Haiju that comes through. So it seems like that's all they do, is they stack rocks. And Hoid explained it in a way that I thought was made sense and was pretty cool. Is that the spirits are attracted to three things. If you make order out of chaos... Oh, gosh. I want to get it right, what he says.
Something from nothing, beauty from raw material, order from chaos.
Yeah.
So creation, art, organization.
Creation, art, organization. So she creates these things. She organizes, otherwise chaos. What was the other one? What were the three again?
Creation, art, and organization. I moved from the page. Creation, art, organization, yeah.
Yeah, something from nothing, beauty from raw material, order from chaos. So what she's doing essentially is she spends hours doing something that attracts the attention of these spirits. It kind of reminded me of like creation spren, or like any kind of emotional spren. You have to do something in order to attract these spirits or these spren. And in this case, stacking rocks. And she does it so long that her arms, her muscles, well, it doesn't say her arms necessarily, because she's kneeling down to do this. So I'm sure her whole body is just numb and aching. Her hands are bloody. So she's like really dedicated.
This whole the commitment she has to put forward just blowed me away. It blew me away. Like, she had to do this for so long. Like, I'm sorry. First of all, I don't think it's possible, humanly possible, to sit on your knees like she did for an entire day.
Even if you have like those monks that do crazy things.
Okay, fine.
It's probably since she's been trained to do this from birth, she's been doing this.
I still have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
But it still blew me away that she was handling rocks, not harshly, but still so much that she wore down the calluses on her hands and was bleeding.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And she actually accomplishes quite the feat. So normally, when a Yoki Haiju does this, they attract like 6 to 7 spirits.
Yeah, not very many.
And she attracted 37, which is like the most, at least according to Yumi's perspective and experience, the most that has ever been summoned.
Yes, and she's kind of unique with this. Like, her previous record was 20, which is still quite a bit more than 6.
So she's obviously very good at what she does.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the most skilled of the living, of the other 14.
That's why her person should lay off. Who's that, like, organizer lady?
Liyun.
She needs to.
We'll get to Liyun.
Freaking Liyun, right?
I freaking hate Liyun. I thought at first that Liyun was going to be like the priests in Warbreaker, but I no longer think that.
I don't either.
She's just a terrible person.
Uh-huh.
But we'll get to that. So then we get to the true purpose of what she did. So the true purpose, a big part of it's attracting the spirits, but then once the spirits are attracted, she essentially has them give boons to the villagers. So based on needs that Yumi doesn't know how they decide, but they have a list of people that have needs higher than others, and they can request things of the spirits. And they're requesting very basic things for the most part. Like they're requesting.
It wasn't like they requested a Lamborghini, please, or something
or
crazy.
like
I don't know.
or like in Warbreaker when they're beseeching the gods, they're like, "I'm gonna die unless you give me this gift," or like, "I have my leg fell off and I need the gift." It's more like basic everyday needs. Like, I've been living in darkness every night because I don't have a light, and so she would talk to the spirit, and they have this way to make light, which I thought was pretty innovative. They break the spirit always breaks into 2, and for the light one, I don't know wholly how this works, but one is like light and one is like dark. And if you touch the dark one to the light one, it makes the light go out. But if they're not touching, then it's bright. It's kind of like a globe. And Hoid compared them to like a sphere from Roshar.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, interesting. So stuff like that. They also, we learn more about their farming techniques through this, because a lot of people requested essentially what are drones.
Some weird farming equipment that we don't have in our world because
we don't know why they need these drones yet. Because apparently the ground is so hot that the native plants just hover and float around on thermal waves or thermal. I don't know what they're called. Thermals. Yeah. And the farmers can have boxes made out of these spirits that can also float, that they like cultivate and put all this stuff in. And it seems like they have to protect them from something. Doesn't say what, but they have these huge crows that Hoid says are the size of like an 8-year-old kid. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, geez.
That is a huge bird.
It was funny how he was like, I've never seen the one as big as an adult, only as big as like a 7-year-old. I'm like, that's still huge.
Right. Yeah, she's like, and there's some things even they can't protect the crops from, so they get like these drones where they're essentially are like insect-like things that have a controller, and they can zip them around and do stuff.
I can't wait to see. I always love to see the creatures of the world and stuff.
Yeah, so I'm like, what the heck are they trying to guard against? that they need a
Something scary,
drone. They
probably.
need a drone. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how that pans out. Uh, so it's just basic things like that, like farming equipment, lights, those drone things. She gives 37 people that type of stuff. And we also get a little comment from Hoid that I thought was funny. He said this is the only planet he's seen where bandits will steal trees. Oh, that was kind of funny.
That is funny.
So yeah, like trees would be like chained up so people wouldn't steal them. So
In these chapters too, we get a little more insight into their lives, Yumi and Painter, and I'll stick to Yumi right now. But I think Yumi also is suffering from like the depression, like you were talking about last week. I don't know. Did you say you thought Yumi was depressed, or was it just Painter?
I think I talked mainly about Painter,
Mainly
but
about
I
Painter,
definitely
but-
think Yumi is definitely.
Yeah,
I think she's like depressed in a different way than Painter.
Yeah.
Like Painter is depressed because he's self-isolated himself. He doesn't have any friends, and he's just always surrounded by gloom and darkness, and doesn't really have a lot going for him.
Maybe he feels depressed too because they don't have like a sun. They don't get
Yeah,
vitamin
got
D.
no vitamin D for you.
Yes.
And I think Yumi's depressed because she didn't have a choice in what she's doing. And,
Yeah, and freaking
and just
Liyun.
since birth, she's been very regulated and very not allowed to be an individual. You know, everything that she does, everything about her is sacrificing for others. And, you know, that can be a noble cause, but I mean,
When you have to do it
when
kind of
it's
forced.
forced upon you, like you, and it's forced in multiple ways. One, like Liyun, and probably society in general is forcing her, but also if she doesn't do it, then people will die. And so it's like two ways that she's forced to do it. Like people are forcing her to do it, but it's also like super necessary. And she's like she's one of 14 people that can do it, or presumably the whole planet.
Yeah, they
And
don't
so-
specify if it's for like just a area or.
And so the pressure's there, but I mean, it's still, I can totally understand just wanting to get away. And we also get a little more insight of why it's so overwhelming. And I totally agree with her, because I think it's 100% Liyun.
Definitely,
I think Yumi would be in a better position, you know, because she's providing these essential services. She's really powerful in what she's doing. But Liyun, I don't know if she's like a psychopath or like,
I would say.
she's at very least a narcissist, probably even a psychopath. But she's just I was like, holy crap. But so she's been a mentor to Yumi her whole life, so probably essentially a mother to Yumi.
Very, very terrible example of mother.
And so I totally got a Mother Gothel a feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
from her. Like,
She does, like, she gives us different words, but it's like the exact same speech that Mother Gothel gives Rapunzel.
yeah,
Liyun gives Yumi.
yeah, because Yumi she goes all out, and giving these boons to people and convincing the spirits to transform to these things, like take something out of her, like it just drains her. And so by the time she goes through all 37, it's so taxing that she passes out.
Yeah, and I remember it was saying that she was working for so long that the people in like the crowd and even Liyun, right? That was her name. Liyun, like they all left and like went to the bathroom, went to go eat. They went to take care of kids. They were taking care of chores that still needed to be done, while she was still on her knees putting together this piece of art.
Yeah.
So it's just.
pretty
It's kind of
intense.
I would hate this. I don't know if you would consider it a religion, but it feels like a religion, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, she does pray and stuff, but like Yumi seems to be the only one who really has to do anything for this religion, and that would make me insane. And that's part of the reason I would be depressed if I was in her position. But maybe she doesn't care about that because she's like, I want to help people.
And another thing, so when she forms spirits into things, it's not permanent. Like over time, these things that she's creating, like the light orbs, the drones, the planters, are all going to fade, and another Yoki Haiju will have to come back and renew them. But she made it seem like because there were so many spirits, it would last long. They would last longer because she says the more spirits there are, the longer it lasts. And since no one's ever done 37 spirits before, she doesn't know how long they will actually last, but probably at least a little while.
Be good for a while. Hopefully that one guy won't have to go 6 years without light. But I wonder how many people are in a village. Is it like a few hundred, a few thousand? Because if it's a few thousand or more, then 37 still isn't that many. That many to get helped.
This seems like a smaller town, but maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how many
I
people
kind of feel like
there.
that too.
And we get a look at Yumi.
Yes, we do.
Passed out in the middle of all her art. Pretty good art. I like the art of this book.
I thought it was funny.
It's kind of like anime-esque. It's kind of what it seems like to me. I like it. It's not like quite like anime, but
it kind of feels like anime. But I think I feel that way just because it's Asian.
Yeah. Maybe that's all the way. Maybe that's what I'm getting it from too.
I would be feeling the same way as Yumi. It's interesting how this kind of stuff happens. Like, even though she has been doing this since birth, she's been raised to this, and told it's like her responsibility or whatever else. But now, 19 years later, she's still like kind of fighting against it. She's like, I wish I could go have my own life. I could do my own thing. And I could go to this festival in 100 days and whatever. But I'd be the same way. And I thought it was, what did she say? Oh, like, I think part of her depression is that she feels like everyone deserves someone better than her. Someone who doesn't secretly want freedom, or who doesn't deep down, as it says, reject the incredible gift, in my opinion, she's been given.
So that's the end of chapter 4. It kind of ends with Liyun approach to offer congratulations, but instead of finding a magnificent master of spirits, she finds an unconscious, exhausted 19-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was funny early in this chapter. We see our first example is what Hoid was talking about, where he was going to use lowly and highly. Well, I think we used highly, but this is the first lowly. But I really thought it was just funny that she said she was tired, so lowly tired, and I was like, she just swore. And I thought I like that.
All right, so we're going to jump to chapter 6. We're going to come back to chapter 5 because I think it flows a little better, and reading, it kind of makes sense maybe to break it up a little bit, but I think maybe in this case where there's 2 chapters about Yumi this week and only one about Painter, we'll kind of do both the Yumis at once.
Yeah.
Especially because we're kind of in a roll with Yumi. Because this next chapter really lit up that I was like, okay, Liyun.
Yeah, this is where
no bueno. She's not a good
I really,
person.
the first few times we talked about read about Liyun, I kind of got the vibe like, I don't really like her. She's kind of a butt. But now it's like, full of hatred.
Right? It's like, no, I freaking hate you, Liyun. Stupid person.
So this is weird. This how this starts with Yumi awaking on the floor of the wagon that she travels in, because like, if in our world a woman woke up and she was not wearing the same clothes, she fell asleep or passed out, and she'd be like, "What the fuck? Who the frick undressed me?" Right. But hers just like la-di-da.
Yeah, just like, and even like contributors like, of course they wouldn't let me sleep unless I was in my ceremonial sleeping gown.
Yeah.
So like, even though she's unconscious from exhaustion, they still feel obligated to change her into the gown she's supposed to sleep in. So
seriously,
pretty ridiculous, and I think completely unnecessary. To me, it still seems like Yumi, all she needs to do is go to these towns, attract attention of spirits, and grant boons. I don't think she needs to do any of the other ritualistic crap.
I don't think so either.
And I think it's that other ritualistic crap that's making things so difficult. I think this was already a difficult enough task, and then you add such stringent ceremony to it, such strict ceremony, which is what makes it so unbearable, I think.
Yeah, honestly.
And especially, it's just, and Yumi's
her.
so isolated, she's revered so much by everyone as this person with great power. Her servants are just kind of there. And so the only person that she has to really talk to and confide into is Liyun. Liyun kind of like, hasn't explicitly said this, but it makes it seem like Liyun raised her. At the very least, Liyun is the one who's trained her how to be a Yoki Haiju. And so, yeah, at this point, Yumi kind of tries to get some reassurance and some comfort from Liyun and gets exactly the freaking opposite.
Yeah, hardcore the opposite.
Yes, so Liyun comes in, and first Yumi's like, how did I do? And even though she'd done something never done before, ever, Liyun just says, you did your duty. And then it's kind of like, oh. Like,
yeah, not even
geez.
like, wow, you were That was really
It's
amazing.
like, wow, good job. Like none of that. It's just like, yeah, you did what you were supposed to do. What do you want from me? A cookie? Like that's kind of like the thing I got.
Yeah, gosh.
And it even says like that. Her voice, her said when she replied, her voice soft yet rasping, like ripping paper. So it's just very harsh. And then so Yumi kind of prods a little bit more. She's like, I've never heard of someone summoning 37 spirits in one day. And in her mind, she's like, she wasn't fishing for a compliment, but at the same time, she was still looking for reassurance from Liyun. She was still looking for
at least
something.
some reassurance. She's not looking to get like bow down to. Oh, you are so great, thank you. Or, like she just wants something though, because she's. This is where I kind of also think she's almost in the same boat as Painter, because Painter he's got his own issues, but he's self isolated, but she's not. But at the same time, she's kind of forced because she's I bet you her other servants probably are scared to talk to her, probably don't say anything to her,
or probably even expected not to talk
or
to her.
yeah, probably forbade from talking to her. And then she's got this freaking Liyun who's a terrible person.
Yes, and this
She's
is
got
even the
no
worst.
one. She's got no one to confide in. No one to be like, even like proud of her. Like if I was in her position, I'd be even more motivated to not give a crap.
Yes, and then Liyun rips into her, and she's like, yes. She's like, oh, make people question what you did. Like, were you always capable of this? Were you holding back?
Yeah.
Like, did you not like those other people in the other villages? Are you going to do the same thing for the next village? Because now they're going to think that if you don't do that, you're not blessing them as well. And then she's like, but I'm certain it's wisdom. I'm certain that you got what you're doing, chosen.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
that's the vibe I'm getting from her. And it just completely deflates Yumi. I feel so bad for her.
Yeah.
Because it says that she shrank down, wincing at the throbs of pain from muscles in her arms and back. And even in great success, it appeared she did not do enough.
Yeah, gosh.
And then she's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to perform tomorrow. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do tomorrow. And Leon's kind of like, well, you better, freaking good. Now take a rest, and then leaves. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Someone
So
take a
like,
switch to this woman.
so like now I'm like, I feel even more bad for her because she has to do all of this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
She has to work herself to the bone making this art. She has to pray for these people, try to gather spirits. She has to go through this ridiculous bathing ceremony.
Yeah, and literally like she's not gonna have any real rest. Like when you put your body to the max like that, a night's rest is not good enough. Like her fingers are not going to be healed. She's going to rip them she's going to rip them up even more. Her muscles are probably so incredibly sore that it'd take her a month to, okay, maybe like a week or something, but it's going to take a long recovery, and she has to do it all over again.
Just not even considering like the muscle pains, which is I think what you're saying, but like just her hands to heal from the cuts. Like I think my cuts take at least a few days to scab.
At least.
And like it seems like hers were pretty bad. Like it's bad enough that her calluses. And if she does this every day, she must have had some pretty beefy calluses. And so,
And how long? Does she have any sort of a break, or is it like every single day she has to do stuff like this?
I don't know. It seems like she's had it every other day, because she said that they're going to Gongsha Town. So Yulin says, I will tell Gongsha Town that they can look forward to a visit from a strong Yoki Haiju tomorrow. And then she says, you need to remember, Uni, that you're a resource.
Yeah, that's
like
what I
water,
hated.
Like
is
plants, like sun, like
that was kind of like salt in the wound. Is like because, I hate when this kind of stuff happens. Like when you see someone being like abused, and they're like, "Oh, thank you." You're like, "Oh my gosh, you need to be slapped too."
yes.
But like after Yumi tries to get something to confide in, then it almost seems like the last word I felt. She's like, "May I offer a reminder, chosen?" Oh yes, but I guess it's not. I was thinking she said, "May I offer some advice?" But yeah,
this whole thing, I'm just thinking her is just sneering, being ridiculing, condescending.
Have you ever seen those? They sometimes a teacher is portrayed this way, where like they've got like this snooty woman with like her hair in a super tight bun. She's got like those glasses with chains, and she's wearing a shirt up to her chin and all the way down. She like only has her hands and face exposed, and she's all just like stuck up and snobby, and she's super quick to use her ruler to beat some children because they sneezed without saying excuse me or something. Like that's how I think of
Totally.
Liyun.
I wonder. I bet Liyun has a lot of privilege by association to
Probably.
Yumi, and I wonder if that's like just totally corrupted her. Like
I wouldn't be surprised. It
she's
seems
probably trying
like
to like hold back and hold down Yumi.
this is like
Because
exactly what
as
people
long
do.
As
when they
long
get
as
power.
Yumi needs a mentor, Liyun has privilege and power. And so I bet that's part of the motivation of treating Yumi so just freaking terribly. Like, I can't. She's been treated this way her whole life. Like, I can't even imagine her self confidence and self worth must be just like dirt. She must just. And I think we even see it coming through. Like, whenever she even has a thought, she just feels overwhelming, like painful guilt of having any type of thought for herself. And
I think you're definitely right, because that's what she feels. I think.
Yeah.
This is how she.
And now it totally makes like this is way more than just like the Disney princess complex where they're like, I need to escape and live, just being dramatic. Like she's a prisoner, and she is like unnecessarily just
dehumanized, taken down. Yeah.
Like she's just made to view herself only as a resource, only as a servant. And I know there's a lot of things that are like, oh, serve others is nice, but don't be a slave. Like she's essentially being a slave.
There's either I very much believe that I think it was a phrase that there too much of a good thing is not good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, 100% serving is good, but when you get to the point where you're being mentally abused by this woman, and then you're working yourself almost literally to death, pretty much. Like, did she even get a bathroom break or water or food while she was working for an entire day?
Doesn't seem like it.
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh,
so she deserves.
You guys
at
are
least,
going way too far.
She at the very barest minimum deserves a good job, kid.
Seriously.
Like, you did your people proud. You went above and beyond, and you really blessed this town. And they're going to be blessed for a long time because of what you did.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, you dirty, rotten rat. Like, could you do this the whole time? Like, are you going to be able to do this again? Like, I'm going to tell them to expect it. You better deliver. And
get my blood boiling.
I know, me too. I'm freaking making me so mad.
Poor freaking Yumi. Gosh.
I know. And then she has to leave with one more slap. Right when she's walking out the door, Liyun stops. And she's like, I feel like this is going to happen again unless I do something. I'm failing you as a warden. Perhaps I will seek advice. There is something I must do.
Yeah, so that just means like something even worse is coming now.
So like, wouldn't you want to like encourage this? I mean, she can bring where the average, like actually not even the average, like the most Yoki Haiju can expect is 6 spirits, and she gets 37. I mean, that's like 6 times more than any other Yoki Haiju.
Yeah.
You think that she would be like, holy crap, this is
amazing.
Awesome. Like,
yeah.
let's get you rested. Let's get you whatever you need to like make sure that this happens again. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and that reminds me, like, it can go even farther, because I remember it talked about the first guy that she helped, and he's like, oh, I've been without light for 6 years. Can I have something to light and to get going on to that stuff? Yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, she says, like, I'm sorry I failed you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, are you serious? How many thousands of people does she have to serve? She's not responsible for failing
and
any
even
of
that,
them.
I think it's all Liyun, because even that guy like started to say like, you didn't fail me, but then he had stopped because it's not proper to contradict a Yoki Haiju.
Yeah.
So I think
that's true though,
because
totally was it Liyun who's just telling her like, oh, you failed these people, so
based on what she did, based on her reaction to this great success, I can't even imagine what it's like if she messes up or fails.
When she was like, she even talked about how it's been like a long time.
Yeah, because apparently
since she scared away the spirits.
Oh yeah, that's one thing we forgot to mention. So apparently, there's a chance that when you request something of the spirit, they'll reject it and leave and won't change or transform. So
yeah, she has to do some sort of persuading, because she was talking about how the later spirits, like maybe like 20 and up or 30 and up or something like that, were harder to convince because they weren't as impressed, or like the
effect of like the art,
their infatuation with the art or whatever is wearing off and whatever. So man, and she said if Liyun was around then when she failed, I can't imagine.
And even when I think Yumi even thought that or was recalling that there was a time where she worked this hard but fell unconscious before she could ask the spirits to do anything. And so I'm like, ooh.
Jeez.
If like just again, I already said this, but if this is Liyun's reaction to such an overwhelming, never before seen, absolute success, any amount of failure is just gonna be. But I think Yumi's starting to like get pretty pissed because she says that she feels numbness, frustration, and even anger.
Yeah, it's good. Get out of there, Yumi. It is actually, it's one of my predictions that she will actually rebel and leave, run away. And I'm like, yes, do it. I'll be cheering.
And so Yumi, of course, can't sleep after that. You know, she's probably unconscious and she probably slept for a few hours anyway. But after that confrontation, she can't sleep, and you get kind of like a sad little thing. She hears one of the crows freaking out for some reason, and then someone calms it, and then Yumi's like, "I wish someone could comfort me."
Yeah.
Like, oh, you poor kid.
Honestly.
Like, that seriously sucks what you're saying. But then she hears a voice, which makes me think that we're starting to maybe see a start of a connection between their two worlds.
Yeah, this is where I started to feel the connection too.
Yeah. But it says, she says she feels blessed at birth, imprisoned at birth. And then she hears a voice saying, "I understand." And Yumi's like, the F?
Yeah.
And then she feels a very powerful spirit present and says that you are bound. And then she's like, wow. And she's like, no, I'm blessed. Like, I'm extremely blessed. She's like, no. And the spirit's like, no, you're trapped. And we're trapped too, like you. And then then it says, like, you worked really hard today. Like, we saw what you did. Like, can we give you a gift? And Yumi's, of course, a lifetime of being forced to view herself as only a slave. I'm gonna stop saying servant. She's a slave. She's only a slave to what these people need. And I'm not even what people need. She's a servant to what the people need, and she's a slave to the ceremony and ritual, which is, in my opinion, 100% unnecessary.
Yeah, that's dead on.
100% unnecessary. And then, but Yumi, so with that whole mindset, even though the spirits are offering her a gift, and Hoid kind of jumps in at this point, and he's like, I know a lot of you are suspicious, but in this world, if a spirit offers you a gift, there's no like catch, there's no gotcha. It's just all good. It's 100% good. It's not going to be like Rumpelstiltskin good deal or like a genie deal.
There's no fine print.
Yeah, it's just like if you just get something good. But she's like, no, like, forgive me for even thinking this. And the spirit's like, okay, well, can you give us a boon? She's like, what do you want? And then this is when I started to get like super suspicious. I'm like, ooh, because it says that we are bound, trapped. So right now she's being confronted by one powerful spirit, but then the spirit says we are bound. So is there like this, like, I'm almost thinking there's like this evil army that's like banished to Painter's world, and that's why it's all dark. And we'll talk about this in a minute when we get to Painter's chapter. But I'm starting to suspect that there were evil spirits on Yumi's planet that were banished to Painter's planet, and that's why Painter's planet is as it is. And those spirits that are bound, that are turned into nightmares, are reaching out to Yumi saying, free us. And Yumi, in her like agitated and angry and frustrated and state that she's in, says, okay, I'll help you. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, don't do it, Yumi.
Oh gosh, I didn't think that at all. I went kind of a different way. I was thinking it was maybe like the spirits who she'd already talked to, who had been transformed into all these different tools. And I was like, okay, they're bound. They want to be free. And I'm like, oh, they don't like doing this.
But she even thinks that, and she's like, and then spirits are like, no, like that's not what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
And then because so it says right here, like she glanced towards the corner. It's like so the spirit says we're bound and trapped, and then she glances at one of the orbs that has like the light, and she's like, oh, they trapped in that. And then the spirit says, no, that is not our prison. We have a more terrible existence. Can you free us? Will you try? And then they give us a little like, ooh. It says there is one who can help you.
Yes, I 100% think they're talking about Painter.
Yeah. Totally.
I don't know how he's going to help if your prediction is right.
Yes. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. And she didn't know what she could do, but because of how she's grown up, she just feels like she needs to do whatever she can. And so she says, yes, tell me what you need and I'll do whatever I can. And it says, please free us. Except I think it's more emphasis, like, please free us.
I think it is too, because it's like free, period, us.
Yeah, and then all went black, and I'm like, oh, crap, like, this doesn't seem good.
Yeah.
And that's where the chapter ends with Yumi. But so it seems like something crazy is going to happen. One of those classic, a demon's been bound for 1,000 years.
Like if these spirits have, bad intentions, I think they would definitely be able to convince Yumi to help them, because they'll probably be like, "Oh, you've done so much. You summoned 37 spirits. They weren't even great."
Just like the classic evil guy manipulating the
good innocent person.
The good innocent person that's been trod on their whole life. Like, just give them one compliment and give them one, make them feel loved and accepted, and they'll do freaking whatever you want, and we'll listen to whatever you say.
Oh man, that would be a really interesting turn if that's where things are gonna go.
But now we can jump to Painter. So I think there's some things in here that tie in quite well with what's going on with Yumi right now. So on the beginning, so we're jumping back to chapter 5. We get a little history lesson on how Painter's planet came to be how it is, surrounded by darkness. And this is where I'm talking about where I think that spirits were banished to his planet, because there's like these, it's not really, Hoid says it's not really a history, because it's more of just things that were passed down from people who were just desperately trying to survive. Like he mentioned that there are people surrounded in darkness that they would find each other and just like cling to each other and cry because because they found another living person. And the first quote, I was like, ooh, that's pretty crazy. But the first quote, one account is like, I'm just going to read it verbatim. It says, "I watched it rain the blood of a dying god. I crawled through tar that took the faces of people I had loved. It took them. Their blood became black ink." And so it just seems like I'm just picturing like they're just seeing their world turn to darkness, and they're just seeing it drip down like it's like blood.
Yeah.
And it's like these spirits, in my opinion, these spirits being banished there from like some type of conflict or war or battle on Yumi's planet. And then they just start getting these nightmares, these evil spirits, because we see that the nightmares in Painter's world, when they first come out of the darkness, they're shapeless and they're like kind of like an orb. And when Yumi first summons the good spirits on her planet, they're shapeless and like an orb until she gives them direction. And so they're similar. And I think that's like the yin and yang thing. And
yeah, that could be it, since this seems to be taking after Asian culture.
Yeah, and there's just like crazy things that they're saying. Like one is like, "It will take me. It creeps under the barrier. It knows I'm here." So it just seems like so Painter's planet hasn't always been this way. At some point, it was just probably a normal place to live, and then just everything became darkness. And then it didn't really explain when the Heian came. But that's the only reason they're surviving. So that little history lesson combined with what we just listened to or read from Yumi makes me think that that's how their planets are connected, is that it's like a yin and yang relationship where the evil spirits are trapped on Painter's planet, and we're probably going to see Yumi release them, and they're going to start either completely terrorizing Painter and his cities, or they're going to come to Yumi's planet. And I don't know. That's my prediction.
I could see it going like they'll try to terrorize Painters, but then they'll want to come to the planet where they were banished from and take that back or something like that.
Yeah. And then Painter. Both these people just have depressing lives.
Yes, but
I
feel a little more for Yumi now.
I think Yumi is a little sadder. Painter's, it's kind of just feels like he's got a bad job and he needs to find a different job.
Yeah.
Not like he's like in this impossible situation that he has no escape from and is forced to do.
Yeah.
He just kind of picked a job and that's not very well paid, doesn't really have a lot of appreciation, and he self-imposes, like he likes to view himself, he tries to force himself to view himself as a lone warrior, a lone wolf, but he's actually lonely and depressed.
So
but
it's his own fault. It almost feels like he could.
But he
do something maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure he could, but maybe he feels like he can't. I don't know. But we meet Painter's foreman or his supervisor, and he's a class act. Because my understanding is like, as long as you're dealing with the nightmares, as long as you're banishing them, like it's all good. Like that's what we're trying to do. But the foreman gets mad at him for painting bamboo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's like, another bamboo, and Painter's like, well, yeah, it works. Like, why would I do anything else if that's my job? And then he's like, it's lazy. Like, you got to paint something, you got to make it look better and make it look like we have to match it to what they are. And he's like, they look like bamboo to me. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, he really is. He's like the classic manager who wants the workers to do things their way, even though what the workers are doing works better because it's tailored to them.
Right. So I was kind of like, that made me think of all the bad managers I've ever had.
Right. You ever had a good one? I've had one good one.
They're rare. It's funny how rare good managers are.
Yeah, gosh. It's like it's a weird human condition, in my opinion, that like you get power and you just completely lose your crap. Even if it's just a small thing, small or big, people in power don't seem to understand how to use their power. It's a rare case.
They just abuse it and they're just become incompetent.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. So he turns in paintings, gets paid, and then goes to seems like a Nightmare Painter hotspot called the Noodle Pupil. It's like kind of like a corner restaurant. And we get some really cool Cosmere interconnectivity / similarity to Tress.
Yep, sure do.
Hoid is trapped in like a freaking weird situation.
No, what the heck?
What?
Hoid is supposed to be this like the powerful being, and okay, in Tress it was his own fault because he wanted like a challenge. But what the heck happened here?
Right. Well, I guess we'll find out. But Hoid, when he traveled to this planet, which apparently he's bonded to Spren, we'll get to that. There's a Spren, cryptic Spren here named Design that Hoid. It seems like Hoid is bonded to. I don't know how exact. I don't know if that means like. I don't know if it's the same bond as a Night Radiant, but Hoid is able to do light weaving because he uses it with Design. And
is that what Pattern was? Pattern's a cryptic span?
Yeah, okay. Pattern's a cryptic. So Design's a cryptic, and it's funny. I don't know why, but Design wanted Hoid to make her look like a sexy lady.
Yeah.
So like really voluptuous, and she's like, I think it'd be fun to have boobs.
Yeah, that was so hilarious to me. Like, what kind of Spren are you?
And Hoid was like, and I'm a very good artist, and so because he kept mentioning how because the Design is the Noodle Pupil, she's kind of like the bartender.
Yeah.
And
I totally thought she was a Condra when I first read this.
A what?
A Condra.
Oh yeah, I can see that, but then it
quickly.
It does explicitly say she's a cryptic, so we're not guessing.
Yeah.
For those of you at home who haven't read this chapter yet, but Hoid mentions that because Painter keeps oogling,
yeah,
like her butt and her cleavage probably.
Her bosom.
Yeah, and he's like, Design asked me to do this, and I'm a very good artist. But we get like Hoid, for some reason, when he first traveled to this planet, he became frozen.
Yeah, which
and
I don't
understand.
And
entered into this trance, and then Design, just like freaking what's his name, the Doctor and Tress, the Condra and Tress.
Oh my gosh, I forgot his name.
I don't remember his name, but just like they were just like, oh well, too bad, Hoid, and like did absolutely nothing to try to help him like get out of his situation.
Yeah,
because what she does is she paints Hoid copper. And then makes him into a coat rack in her restaurant.
He's wearing like a crown or something.
I can't tell if she was wearing it or she put it on him.
I think she put it on him.
Okay, so she put it on him so it could be coat racks. And she puts the frozen Hoid in her thing, and the painters use it as a coat rack.
Yeah, and she like ransacked his pockets.
Yeah, she stole money from him.
So that's how she opened the shop, and so he considers himself a part owner because like she stole his money.
What the crap?
Yeah.
I like his title for himself. He's a renowned interdimensional storyteller.
That's a good title.
That's pretty cool.
That's a way cool title.
Oh, jeez. So I thought that was hilarious. And we get like a picture of Painter at the...
Yeah, Painter and Design.
And so apparently, the light weaving that Hoid did is actually pretty impressive. So
yeah,
those of you who have read Stormlight know that Shallan was able to kind of attach illusions to pattern, but they're really clunky and didn't really do much. They're kind of like, were kind of obvious if you took a closer look at it. But Hoid, he kind of described it like he was able to do it really intricately so that everything she does looks like real and looks like, even though there's a cryptic under there, it looks like it. And Design thinks that's kind of part of the fun. She's like, I want it to be sexy and hot so that if my disguise ever slips, it'll be extra shocking when someone sees the cryptic.
Yeah.
Which they're pretty creepy looking. For in case you don't know, cryptics are Spren from Roshar, who in their true form, they're like really tall in robes, and their heads are like crazy patterns.
Yeah.
And they can't really tell.
Which would look super freaky, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially if it comes like out of a woman. You're like, what the?
Yeah. And
then it's kind of funny. Design tries to pressure Painter into making friends, and he's like, no, I cannot.
Yeah, like what the heck?
even though deep down he is yearning for it.
Yeah. I feel like design is making it worse too. Like because he's 19 years old. He's got like this whole like pity party going on. And then she's like, "Do you want me to go talk to this other guy? Tell me you're lonely?" Like, no.
Right.
Like, what teenagers be like, "Oh, would you please?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no, that's so embarrassing. Stop it!" Like, there's no way I would.
Have you seen the movie Ron's Gone Wrong?
Yeah.
Do you remember that scene where he's at the school and they have this bench that they make kids sit in? They're like, "I need a friend bench," and she's like, "I told all these kids to come make friends with you." And they come over and they're like, "So the teacher said that you wanted me to come be your friend?" And I'll be like, I would die. I'd be like, "Get away from me." Like, I don't want to eat any friends.
Even if you weren't depressed, like having that happen to you is like humiliating. Like you don't need someone else to go do it for you. Oh man. I would be red faced and I would have run out of that noodle shop.
Right. But design does take pity on him and decides to give him 98% off on his food.
Yeah.
So normally
she was going to give him 7%, but
yeah, she was going to give him 7%, and apparently she only gives prime number discounts for some reason that even Hoid doesn't know why. And she's like, she charges him 6 con, and it normally costs 200 cons. I have no idea what the heck that even means, but it seems like quite the big difference.
Yeah.
So like maybe it's like $15, and she's only charging him like $3 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Sounds pretty good comparison. And apparently he only orders the same thing every time, and design can't get him to eat anything else, which kind of makes me believe it's part of his depression. Like maybe he feels like he doesn't deserve something else. He always orders this plain thing.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like it's just plain noodles like cooked in some broth or something. So it's not like
but she's like
unflavored or anything.
And I think she brags, or is actually that she has the best noodles in the city, because
I think it was like everyone thought
like
that.
As a cryptic, she's so precise in following recipe. Like Hoid was saying, she has like little vials that she dumps in as the seasoning, and she has it down to the exact grain.
Yeah, that was insane to me. How do you do that?
That totally sounds like a cryptic.
Yeah.
And then we also get another interesting thing about Hoid. When he was first frozen, he was quite aware of his surroundings, and he was screaming inside when design was painting him copper. And so I'm like, that sounds super creepy. Like to be fully aware of what's going on and not be able to move or do anything.
Yeah, that'd freak me out.
That would freak me the heck out.
Have you ever had that? I don't remember what it's called, but there's like an actual thing that some people suffer from.
Yes.
Where like you sleep, you're sleeping and you try to wake up and your mind wakes up, but you can't control your body yet.
Yes, that's happened to me on several occasions.
I've had that happen several times.
It is terrifying.
It is horrifying.
It is terrifying.
It's one of the most surreal things I've ever experienced, and it's a living nightmare.
I freaking hate it.
I'm pretty sure it's only lasted a couple of seconds, maybe like 5 seconds or something for me, but it
like
felt like an hour. Like I can't move. What's going on?
Yes. Like I've even had it so bad where like I'm sitting there and I finally am able to like move my arm and then like kind of move, but like it takes like a while for me to like get like my body going. I'm just like freaking out the whole time. So yeah, I totally feel for.
Has your wife ever just been watching you like trying to move?
It hasn't happened. I think it's only happened like once or twice in the last like 8 years or so.
Okay.
It happened more often when I was a kid.
Oh really?
Like it happened almost regularly. Like I started to fear taking naps, because if I would take a nap during a day, it would like highly likely that would happen.
Wow, that's insane. I've only ever happened. Oh my gosh, I've only ever have it.
You've only ever had it happen?
Yes, I'm trying to say. I've only ever had it happen like twice, and they were both in my 20s.
It happened to me several times, and it was like getting bad. Like like where I said where I would just not take naps because.
Did you ever like tell mom or dad?
I told dad about it, and he was not helpful at all. Yeah, because because dad said the trick, because he said it happened to him too, and he said the trick was to relax so you would fall back asleep. But like the thing with I don't know what it was, but like when I would become mentally aware, I would stop breathing. Like,
really?
So I'd be like having a hard time breathing and moving. So I'd be like, if I and like go like that. And so,
I don't think I had a hard time breathing. Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah. So it's like not being able to move, not being able to breathe. And I think it was more like a panic than like an actual like my lungs stopped working or anything was wrong with me. It was just kind of like a panic response. But
wow, that's intense.
I could never try dad's trick of relaxing and falling back asleep. I would have to like sit there and like put all of my effort into just moving.
Jeez.
Anyways,
so we know that Hoid must feel awful because
yes,
he
Apparently,
couldn't.
yeah.
And then his freaking Spren doesn't help him. What the heck?
She's painting some copper and makes him into a coat rack. I'm like, what kind of friends does?
Honestly, little jerk.
So yeah, but apparently after a while he slipped into a trance-like state, and it's been like that way for 3 years. But now, he was saying during the time frame of this Painter Yumi story, he started to slowly regain awareness.
Yeah, and I think he mentioned it also that he's been in this planet 6 years.
I thought you said 3.
Or was it 3?
I think it's 3.
I think it was. You're right. It was 3.
3 years.
So maybe for a couple of years he was just unconscious, but now he's kind of back. I also thought it was interesting to see. They talked about it's been 17 centuries since the people's account of the world going dark.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a freaking long time.
It's been a way long time.
1700 years.
It's been like medieval versus modern times now.
So at this point, it's just always been that way, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's no one even close to being alive that even remembers it being anything else.
Yeah. No.
So Painter leaves, and he notices the sign of a nightmare passing by, and he's like, I'm not on duty. I don't even give a crap. But it turns out he does. And he leaves, but then he comes back and like muttering. Oh, no, apparently they have TV.
Yeah. Like he wanted to get home to get to watch his favorite drama.
Yeah. But then, and that's his excuse he gives for not going after a nightmare, because he's off duty and he wants to go see his show. But then he like he feels obligated. Like I don't know if he feels like a sense of duty or obligation. He comes back muttering that like the first part of the show's a recap anyway. And that's the end of his chapter.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, actually, I just completely changed my entire prediction.
Do tell.
So I'm just seeing this other part where it says that when he started regaining awareness, he said it started as voices, dialogues, lines spoken by Painter, who was near him, and others from Yumi, whose comments were softer, one more distance. Now I'm thinking it's Hoid reaching out to Yumi. Saying
I forgot about that. I don't know, though. Because he says his we. That's what throws me off.
Yeah.
Like maybe... I don't know. Maybe she's getting
maybe like when she's gonna release some evil spirit, but then at the same time release Hoid. Or
I'm kind of wondering. I hope this doesn't happen because I don't want it to be repetitive. But I'm worried that like Hoid is going to be stuck the entire book.
And probably is. It's probably going to be very similar to Tress, where at the
that's
very
what
last
I
second
was thinking. Like maybe the last chapter or two he'll be free, but most of this he's going to be just telling us a story, and he's going to be in a nice little coat rack.
But yeah, these were awesome chapters. I think that Brandon Sanderson has outdone himself with this.
Which is just
I feel like really connected to these characters. Like
like especially
totally
Yumi. Yumi like is she's a little worse than us, but we could relate very well.
Seriously. Next time my wife asks me to do dishes, I'm going to have her read the Yumi chapters. Just kidding.
I'm a slave. Oh man. But yeah, I agree with you, Sid, that not only is it impressive that Brandon wrote how Brandon wrote these books and like these crazy things coming up his brain, but thinking that he wrote, we don't know the fourth one yet, but he wrote all 4 of these books in a year. Like, what the frick? It would take me 4 years to write one of these books.
The man has a talent for sure.
No kidding.
So yeah, great place to stop. Cliffhangers on both ends. Potentially,
I think we're going to be getting into. I still kind of feel like we haven't got to like the climax. Like, what's the problem that these two are going to be solving? Well, I guess we kind of got a little bit of it. Like Yumi's going to be getting more into like helping these Spren, but it's also kind of like, what are these Spren going to add? Or not Spren, spirits. What are they going to be asking her to do?
Yeah, totally.
And then I kind of feel like this nightmare that Painter is going after is not going to be as easy as the last one. Like, this is like one of those classic things where he's gonna be like, I guess I'll take care of it, but it's gonna be like, it's like one of those things. Like, have you ever at the end of the day on a work day, like being like, okay, I'll do this one more thing since I got a few minutes left, and then you're left at work like an extra 20 minutes or something. You're like, should I wait till tomorrow because I had to stay at work late to finish this one task.
Yeah, seriously. So we'll see if that's what happens with Painter.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking will happen with Painter.
Yeah. But it seems like the way we've grouped these chapters, it kind of alternates. Like last week it was 2 Painter chapters and 1 Yumi.
Yeah.
And this one was 2 Yumi and 1 Painter. So I bet next week we're going to see a little more what's happening with Painter. Maybe a little less what happens with Yumi. But we'll have to wait until next week to find out. If you already know, readers, good for you.
Don't spoil it for us.
Don't spoil it for us.
But if you do have any questions or thoughts, comments that are not spoilers, head over to Instagram at Into the Pages.
Yes.
And
check us out.
Leave us a message. We'll reply, I swear.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And join us again next week as we go into the pages, chapters 7, 8, and 9.
7, 8, 9.
Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
There's that joke. 7, 8, 9.
What's the joke?
Like, why was 9 afraid of 7? Because
7, 8,
wait,
9.
no. Why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9.
It's classic.
Anyway, haha, kid jokes. Good night, everybody. It's not nighttime, but good night anyway.
Bye. It's over.